Mr. Brad Parker. He's the CEO of Mates in Construction.
We lose a building and construction worker every second day to suicide.
Mates in Construction is a charity that operates across Australia, New Zealand and North America.
We're on a mission, try and get suicides down, reduce suicides in our industry. And I think we're succeeding slowly, but we're getting there.
But how many people has the program touched?
Well over 300,000. We're trying to sort out where the problems are and then build on that and see what we can do. But in my experience, I reckon about 1 in 4 will say, yes, I am.
Hold on, really?
Yes.
That high?
Yes. So you need to ask them clearly and directly, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? We're not asking you to be the psychologist or the psychiatrist. All we're asking you to do is be a good mate.
I have to tell you something very important. Today's episode is about suicide. If it triggers you, leave, tune away, because it will, and it might, I'll say it will, trigger you, and I don't want to be responsible for it. But if you are intrigued by what happens to humans when they suicide, or the ins and outs of the construction company in regards to suicide, this is the episode for you. But without further ado, Brad, please spend the next few minutes introducing yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. I guess, I'm the current CEO in New South Wales for Mates in Construction, and I have a background in the industry, and people often ask, how did you end up at Mates? And I've been in the role for now about 8.5 years. And I guess the real reason why I ended up in Mates is I have 4 sons. And at that stage, they were at that at-risk demographic, young people who were taking their lives for whatever purpose. And I thought it was, important for me as a father to understand, at least to understand a little bit better about what was going on, about why was mental health on the rise? Why do we have these high rates of suicide? Because when I saw the suicide rates, I was dumbfounded. Not many people, I still think most people in Australia today don't really understand how alarming these rates of suicide are. And when I'd heard about the Mates program, I'd first actually heard about it when I was overseas, working in another role in industry. And I was in the US, and somebody had said to me, knowing I was from the construction industry, so I should talk about that. Maybe I have a background in the Australian construction industry. I started off in civil as a civil labourer, as a matter of fact, and worked in the civil sector, but worked in the construction industry for well over 35 years. But I was in this other role. I was overseas at the time. I was confronted by someone who said, "You must be Brad from Australia." I said, "That's correct." They said, "What about your Mates in Construction program? How amazing is that?" Which I sort of knew was mental health suicide prevention, but never really, got involved, or I never really engaged with the Mates program. But I said to them, "Why do you think it's so good?" They said, "Well, we looked at some of your research and, in the Western world, suicides have been increasing, but you may have some real evidence to suggest that you've actually brought them down in the construction industry in Australia." Uh-huh. So I couldn't wait to get out my phone later on and Google to see what it was all about. And that person was, really started, I guess, the journey for me. I got back to Sydney, and in my office in Clarence Street in Sydney, sitting on my desk was an invite to go to the very first Mates in Construction National Conference, and it was going to be held in Sydney. So I cancelled everything in my calendar and then went along, and that's when I was approached then to maybe think about coming to Mates and working for Mates in Construction.
Wow. This was going back 2016, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I was about 20, it would have been 2016, correct. Yes, okay. It was 2016. So that's when I first sort of really got to understand about Mates. I then was able to sit in on a general awareness training, which blew my mind just before I went to Mates, and it kicked off with the stats. And I think that the stats are so important because it needs to tell you where we come from.
Well,
right?
what are stats?
Well, currently where we sit now, we lose a building and construction worker every second day to suicide. Now, if you had those rates with Shark Attack, the community would be outraged. Why aren't we outraged about this? We know that they're now 9 times more likely, a building and construction worker is 9 times more likely to die by suicide than a workplace accident.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did know at the start of the Mates program, when they first investigated, and when maybe I should go to that first, was it was one of these industry trust funds that exist, redundancy trust funds that exist within the Australian construction industry. It was the Queensland redundancy trust fund called BERT, or Building Employees Redundancy Trust. They'd actually looked at death claims that they paid out on. So they had, with their insurance, with the trust fund, they had this death claim component, and they'd paid out on all kinds of deaths, inside and outside of work. And they had a look at it, and it was about 24% of all the claims were suicides. And they went, that's alarming. How could it be that high?
Wow.
Is this something that we need to sort of focus on a little bit more? So what that board decided to do was then they went to Griffith University, or the Australian Institute of Suicide Research and Prevention, and they embarked on what we now know is the most comprehensive study in the world into any industry around suicides. And what they found, one of the big pieces, was that 93% of building and construction workers who had suicided in the past never sought professional help. They either didn't know where to find it, they didn't want to, or the big one was they weren't encouraged to. So therein laid the challenge, I guess, for a program to say, how do we get those people to support? What a high number, 93%.
Yeah.
Who had suicided in the past never sought professional help. Right?
Can I ask you this question then? Like, you say that those were the numbers at the beginning of the program. What is it now after almost 10 years?
So the 93% was at the beginning. I can't tell you. I think that's come down a lot. I can't tell you exactly. I'm not about to try and do the research. We are evidence-based. We have a big research arm. We have a number of academics. I have academics on my board, like Emeritus Professor Michael Quinlan, or Professor Fiona Shan from Black Dog, who sits on my board as well, right? But I'm not going to make it up. I'd have to go to my research crew and sort of say, where's that bit of research? But look, you can have a look on mates.org.au. I think there's around about 100 published bits of research on that on the website. Mm-hmm. So you can knock yourself out on there and have a look. But we knew at the very start that we'd have to have an evidence-based approach.
Yep.
Because I don't pretend to have all the answers.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that if we have a look at the research, and then we can base the whole program around that.
Is there a goal for the charity? As in the ultimate goal for the charity? Like, what is that goal?
Well, it's to reduce suicides.
Okay.
It's to get to zero suicides.
Zero suicides.
I mean, that's my mission.
Uh-huh.
I think, is that realistic? Probably not.
Yeah.
Right? But to reduce suicides is the mission. And I think that we've got real evidence to suggest that we may have done that. The Mates footprint within the construction industry needs to get bigger. We're currently under a lot of pressure for demand of our program, where we can't reach everybody. I'd like to think we can, but we can't. That requires more government support, I think. The industry already support us in a big way, and they've been amazing. But for us we need to get bigger. We need to, within the states that we're in, certainly in New South Wales, there's a lot of activity in New South Wales within construction. and we need to get bigger, and we need to, and then we can get better at doing things. And what we do, we try and change culture on the ground, which I think we're very successful at. It's about building capacity within the industry. It's about creating a network of carers within the industry that is doing the hard yards for, it shouldn't be up to the principal, the principal of the construction job who is the head of safety. It shouldn't be up to one person. It should be a collective effort. And I always say, do you think it's up to your government? Do you think it's up to your employer to solve these problems? Or do you think we all have a collective responsibility where we all can help? And essentially the Mates model does that, and I'm happy to explain why. But the bits of evidence that we sort of hang our hat on is those early pieces about how bad, and currently it sits at, they're 9 times more likely. It used to be 6 times more likely, then it became 8 times more likely. Now it's 9 times more likely, so that's recent research.
Well, hold on, are you saying it's getting worse?
No, I think safety is getting better.
Okay.
So I think the physical safety has got better on jobs, right? But I think suicide, like the focus on psychological or psychosocial hazards or psychological, has sort of come down. Where now there's more of a focus, because now what we're facing within the workers' comp sector is that we have a much higher rate of psychological claims than we have physical claims, right? So that's
correct.
So obviously the government's focus now, the state government's focus is around getting those psychosocial claims down. Excuse me. But also, so I think that physical safety's gotten better. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time within the construction, as we should, around physical safety. So, they'll have toolboxes, they'll talk about filling out their swims, they'll talk about, identifying hazards and all that sort of stuff, but how much time do we actually spend on looking at the psychosocial hazards? And I think they're all just starting to wake up, because it's costing, economically, it's costing us a fortune, with the psychosocial claims.
Can I ask, what was the suicide, I guess the numbers back in 2016 versus now? Like you mentioned now it's around 190 suicides per year. What was it back then?
It was about, they fluctuate, right? But I'd have to provide you with, I didn't bring it with me today, but there's real evidence to suggest in Queensland, where we have a bigger footprint, that the claims have actually started to come down. In New South Wales, it's a bit all over the place. It's flatlined a little bit. But there is an opportunity that we can bring them further down. It's how big the footprint is and how much we're doing around that. And certainly there's a focus by the New South Wales state government and Safe Work New South Wales now focusing clearly, getting a bigger focus on, or as much as, like falls from a height or whatever, all those physical sort of claims, they're now focusing on the psychological claims.
All right, let's get into the specifics. So Mates in Construction, what do you guys actually do?
Yeah, good question. So I guess getting back to that bit of research that said that 93% of building and construction workers who had suicide in the past never sought professional help. So I think when Mates when they put it together around about in 2008 in Queensland, where it initially started, they focused on that bit of research, and they said, well, how do we actually get or encourage these people to get the support? So what we do is we do a number of things. So we're a bit multimodal. We have training and support. One without the other would be insufficient. As a matter of fact, training without support can be unsafe unless, because you can trigger people. So you've got to make sure that you've got the support mechanisms in place. So we have training, and there's 3 streams of training, which I'll get back to. We have a case management system where the case managers make sure that they follow up with our clients once they need the support, and they make sure that they're connecting them. So it's a bit like counselling at a lighter level. So handing them off to the mental health professionals rather than, but we keep them on the hook. So, not everybody connects straight away, maybe with a psychologist, and it may take a few before they get there. But the good thing is the case managers are always following them up. So we've got a 24/7 helpline that's available to everybody in the industry and their family members, and they can ring that 24/7. They normally then, within 24 hours, our case managers will be in contact with them. So the initial call will be that they'll triage them, they'll see what the criticality is, they'll connect them with the case manager, and the case manager will follow up. We're evidence-based, so we have a big research arm to what we do to ensure that the evidence is there, so we know exactly what we need to base our training or any other mechanisms that we need to sort of pivot on or tweak or make better. And we have a blueprint for better mental health suicide prevention for the industry, where we're able to assist, especially, I guess, the smaller subcontractors within the sector or smaller builders, to help them benchmark them against others in the industry, to make sure that they're trying to fulfil those the psychosocial hazards and so forth. So that there as well. But the training, so we normally train everybody on site. We say it's for everyone. It's not just for the construction workers on the ground. It's not just for the project managers, but it's also for the admin staff on site, because suicide does not discriminate. It doesn't discriminate at all. Suicide.
Well, the admin people from a construction company suicides as well. Is that
everybody does generally. Unfortunately, suicide doesn't discriminate. It can spread right to anybody.
Okay.
In any walk of life, unfortunately. But the problem, and I'll get to what the reasons why we believe construction rates of suicide are so high in a minute. But we ask them all to be involved, because I always say, let's work smarter, not harder. The only way we're going to bring it down is by creating that network of carers, and by doing that, we should include everyone. So it's the general awareness training gets into, breaking down that stigma.
Yep.
But also giving them some ideas about what to look for. So what to look for in someone that may be suicidal, because sometimes it's very hidden and cryptic. And I probably should have said from the outset, anybody that's watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, anybody that's lost someone to suicide, whatever you do, don't do the woulda, coulda, shoulda, or the what ifs, or have that guilt-laden thing that I could have done something. What you don't know at the time. And sometimes they're so hidden and cryptic, the signs they give out, although we call them invitations. They used to call them red flags or warning signs. That means stop, don't do anything.
Yep.
But we now call them invitations, because we say they're cryptically inviting you to do something about it, right? They're giving you stuff, And so we talk about how cryptic that can be. And then in the general awareness training, at the end, there's a big call to action about, well, how do we connect them to help? We should be able to connect them to help. We're not asking you to be the mental health professional. We're not asking you to be the psychologist or the psychiatrist. All we're asking you to do is be a good mate, right? So also part of the Mates program is why we're called Mates, is because we're tapped into that mateship, especially with tradies, building and construction workers. Mateship's real and it's tangible.
Absolutely,
and it's something in the Australian psyche that we can tap in as a positive, and we say, well, would you allow your mate, if you saw your mate struggling with all those boxes, would you trip him up? Probably not. You'd probably give him a hand with those boxes, right?
Oh, yeah, that'll prank him.
Yeah, or prank him. They could prank him. That's right. Well, we're full of pranksters in the industry. Absolutely, Stephen. Full of pranksters. But, what I'm saying is physically, if you've got a bad back, you can tell somebody's got a bad back, right? But can you tell that someone's doing it tough emotionally, right? So you probably help them if they had a physical injury, right? If you saw somebody fall from an EWP, an elevated work platform, you'd have a myriad of people diving in trying to help them and give them first aid, CPR, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I often say to them, if you saw someone strugglingly emotionally, struggling emotionally, in the lunch shed, would you actually intervene and help? Would you think it's your business? Would you think that you're professional enough to do it, that's your role? Or would you do what I used to do? I used to run for the hills.
I would absolutely run for the hills. But look, things have changed though. So slightly have changed. I am responsible for a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
So I have to, if not care, at least pretend to care. I'm sorry to say that, but yes. But I've got a weird and wonderful question. What if you get it wrong? As in, they might be showing all these signs, but you read it wrong. Like, does that happen? Like, what do you do then? Like, imagine, I can't imagine someone, showing all the signs that, you guys taught and then go, I'm not suicidal. What the hell are you talking about? Like, is that possible?
Well, could be, right? But we often talk about it in our training, especially the connector, the next one. So what happens, they do the 45 minutes to an hour. I'll get to to the answer to your question. They do that, and then we ask them to volunteer. So they're not voluntold, they volunteer to do the next phase of training, which is 4 hours about a deeper conversation about actually how you can keep someone safe while connecting them, about how you ask the question. I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's called connector, and we know they're connectors on site because when they've done that training, they wear a green hard hat sticker, connector sticker, so people feel comfortable going to them. They may not feel comfortable going to the CEO or going to the project manager, but they might feel comfortable going to a mate, a work colleague, right, a workmate. So and then they volunteer again after doing the 4 hour training connector, and that they can do the assist, the applied suicide intervention skills training. It is the greatest training I've ever done.
Right.
I'm not just saying that, but it really is. It is the best training I've ever done. It's 2 days, essentially, of suicide first aid, about how you put a safe plan in place and how you exercise that safe plan and ensure that that person's okay and connect them on to help, right? So they're the 3 streams of training, and they volunteer, right? So the question was,
what if you get it wrong?
What if you get it wrong?
Yeah.
Look, do you think, like in all the years that I've been doing this now, I used to feel very uncomfortable about asking the question, because you know how you ask someone who you believe might be suicidal? You know how you ask them, Stephen?
No idea.
You will ask them clearly and directly, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? And it's the most confronting question you'll ask anyone. I feel very comfortable asking that now. At first I found it difficult, but I don't anymore. But why do we have to ask them that way? Because we have to triage them. We need to know, do we need to call the ambulance now, or do they just need a little bit of support? But you know what? You know how you can't ask them? You can't say, you're not thinking about doing something stupid, are you? That's not clear and direct. And you're giving them an out.
Oh, okay.
Not clear and direct, and you're giving them an out, right? So you need to ask them clearly and directly, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? And of course, we've got these cold workers in the industry from a non-English speaking background. If you say something like, you're not thinking about taking your life, are you? They may think, where am I taking my life to? You know what I mean? So you've got to be clear and direct.
Okay.
And say, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? And once you do that, do you think they're going to say to you, get stuff, mind your own business? Or do you think that the answer might be, no, but thank you for asking, or yes, I am. I tell you, you crap your pants and they go, yes. Okay, well, I need to move into the next phase.
Well, hold on. How often does this happen?
From
your experience?
Unfortunately, it happens more often than you think.
Really?
It does. It does, unfortunately. More, I think in my experience, there's probably about, it's only my experience. I don't know if there's, we may well have some research around this, right? But we may not either. But in my experience, I reckon about 1 in 4 will say, yes, I am.
Hold on, really?
Yes.
That high?
Yes.
So you go to,
in my
do one of the
experience,
cinemas.
yes.
Not cinemas.
Now, it may not be, but you know what? We actually need to go there and we need to ask them because those life-saving interventions, they're priceless.
That is crazy, but
And I always say it only takes 10 seconds of courage to call it out. That's all it takes.
For?
Well, let's have a look at the stats.
Okay.
Let's have a look at somebody who's done some good, clear research on this.
Yep.
Right. But I'd say first of all, I work for a charity called Workmates in Construction that deals with mental health and suicide, right?
Yeah.
So, if they're they know where to come. If they're suicidal, they know where to come, right? So maybe it's higher because of that reason. But I reckon about 1 in 4. There's been plenty of times I've been asked when I've had to ask the question. There's been plenty of times I think my staff has probably dealt with it a lot more than I have.
Yep.
And we always ask that question very early on because we need to know where we're going with it. And when they say no and go, okay, well, let's work on what's going on with you. See, we say in the industry, right, that that they spend more time at work with their workmates than they do with their loved ones, family or friends. So we think that they're best placed to pick up that they're not doing so well. And how you go through it, and we go through it with our training, it's about what you might know about that person. So whether they've had some sort of loss in their life, loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship, loss of a friend, loss of money gambling, loss of dignity, some sort of loss. And then we're looking at the changes. So they change, There might be that all of a sudden they become moody or all of a sudden they become reserved and distant. Distant, like the construction worker who played cards in the crib room, the lunch shed every lunchtime, removed himself, went and had lunch in the car. After the third day, he suicided. Everybody on site said, we didn't know that meant suicide. We just thought he needed some space. Maybe on reflection, we should have tapped on that car window and said, mate, what's going on with you? You okay?
Wow.
So it can be cryptic and hidden, right? So, the changes, like they're coming into work late or they're a bit dishevelled, they're not themselves, they're a bit quieter or sometimes they're a bit happier. They can even be really, really happy because, why are they happy? Because they've worked out a way to solve all their problems. Maybe all their gambling problems or their financial problems or, whatever, right? So it's about the loss that you might know about, something you might know about them, the changes that you see, and then there is what you might sense or hear. So they might start talking negatively. They might start saying things like, everything I do just turns to crap. Maybe my family's better off without me. I've had a gutful, I want to throw it in. And then I say, what do you do then? 10 seconds of courage to call it out. Call it out and say, look, I know that you've been through a hell of a time. You've lost someone close to you recently. I've seen the changes. I've heard you say negative stuff. I'm calling it out,
Dude,
Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself?
This is like blowing my mind. I've got so many questions in my head. I don't even know where to start.
I think we we used to run away from this. We never talked about, you go back over the history of suicides like with, religion. Some religions have them, like my own religion, the Catholic religion, had them buried in another part of the cemetery. People weren't spoken about. There's some cultures that don't even have a word for suicide. It's their way of covering it up. Right? So, they're forgotten about. Let's not talk about that. But I think we really need to start talking about it because there's some real evidence to suggest if we don't start talking about it, if we don't start sort of being on the front foot, it's just going to go on. Those terrible rates of suicide,
Like, can we go back a little bit? How many people are employed within the construction industry at the moment?
Oh, well, it depends which one you quote. Look, there's a lot of people in construction at the moment.
Yep.
I should have brought those figures with me. I probably should Google it and I'll tell you. But look, there's a lot. I mean, we deal with a lot of the big infrastructure projects. So on site, we could have anywhere from 500 to 2,000 people on one project, right? So there's a lot of people working in the construction sector, but when you actually put it up against other vocations, other parts, other areas of employment, our rates seem to be high. And the next point I was going to talk to you about is why people often say, why is it that construction's really high rates of suicide? Well, Well, what we do know is that they work long hours. There can be a culture of bullying within the workplace. It's very male-dominated, because on average, right across the board in every facet of life, not just construction, but in Australia as a whole, males suicide at a rate of 75% compared to 25% of females. But as I think I said you off air before, that women, we need to be careful around women because women self-harm and they attempt suicide at a much higher rate than males. But unfortunately with males it's more final. It's pretty, the means is more final, and that's upsetting, right? We need to do something about that. But we know that the culture of, bullying, there's a culture of, drug taking, alcohol, all that. We know that it's a tough industry. We work out in the elements. Right?
Yep.
We work out when it's, luckily I've got a desk job now. Maybe you have, Stephen. I'm happy to be inside on a really hot day.
Very happy.
I'm happy to be
no
inside
idea.
on a very cold day, right? But they have to put up with all of that. But one of the big ones is job insecurity in the construction industry. It's a very casualised, itinerant industry. The life of the project could be as good as the life of the job. It is the only industry that I know in the world, they work so hard to work themselves out of a job. You think about it.
No, technically I am too. I mean, technically what I'm doing is helping people get back to work, and then technically I lose that money afterwards if they get better. So
Right. But you always got people on the hook coming to get it help.
Well, I guess, people will always go and build stuff. That's at least that's what I hope. People are going to build a better future for offsprings, for the society. So no, actually, I don't know. Sorry to interrupt,
but it's
yes.
quite unique in some ways,
It is.
in construction, right? So you've got all these pressures, right? And they're working long hours, then they're going home to the kids, and the kids want to play ball when you get home, and they're buggered because they've been using their body all day.
Yeah, and they wake up at 4 o'clock to go to the
And they
construction
wake up
site.
at the crack of dawn. I do. I wake up at 4:30. I wake up with the construction workers only because I've got to travel all the way into Forest Lodge in my office and I want to beat the traffic, right? But I get things done when nobody's around early.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm used to it. I worked in the construction industry, so I'm used to getting up early and going to bed early.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is they don't see their kids. The kids probably won't wake up until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock
the
until the
pressures,
school starts.
About 52% of it's never one problem when we look at all the problems that come in with our case management, but about 52% are relationship problems. So there's a problem for relationships within our industry. So we've got all those problems that build and build and build, and then now with extra issues around the cost of living, about the price of petrol, and in construction you're always travelling all over Sydney or New South Wales to for that work. So that's why. That's why there are high levels of suicide that we need. I love the industry. I don't mean to denigrate it. I would never do that.
Well, technically, you're trying to protect it.
Well, we're trying to sort out where the problems are, and then build on that and see what we can do. But what's beautiful about the Mates program is that it's a collective effort. They bring everybody together, and by creating that safe network, a network of carers looking out for each other, we're already halfway to beating the problem, I think. If you've got that inbuilt thing where everybody knows what to look for and then how to connect them to help, we're already winning, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why globally we've been recognised as, an example of world's best practice, and why people globally are now looking to the Mates program, which I'm very proud of. That who would have thought that, blue-collar industry like building and construction workers in this country would be leading the world in this space?
I've got 2 questions I would really want to get into. One is, what are the most common signs of people that are about to, off themselves? I don't know what the better way of saying it.
I think if without getting right into all of them, I think you're working with them, you build up a relationship with your work colleague, right? You will know that they're a little bit different, right? So if you've got that background, like I said earlier, if you know that they've gone through a tough time recently, if they've said that and all of a sudden that they're not themselves, if they're just not themselves.
So it's not like a very specific, personality shift, but like a specific signs. It's what they are like before, and then now they've changed.
Correct. It's about the change. It's about the change. So what sort of loss they've had in their life, then the change, and then what you sense or hear. It's a gut feeling. If it's not sitting right in your gut, you need to call it out. And you might be totally wrong, but they're not going to say, get stuff, mind your own business. They're probably going to say, yes, I am going through this stuff. Yes, I am suicidal. Or no, I'm not suicidal, but thank you for asking. That's what will generally happen. We shouldn't be afraid to ask the question.
Are there any other signs that people should look out for?
Oh, look, there's plenty, and you can have a look at the Mates website. You can have a look at, other websites and so forth, and try and skill yourself up on it. Or you can do the Mates training if you're from the construction industry. That's the best way to do it. But look, there's plenty of signs. But I think why we've been so successful is because we get buy-in from industry, where we get access to people, and then we say to them, you work with this person a lot of hours, you spend a lot of time with them, you should be best placed to notice if there's something wrong. And just, what's the harm in just asking?
No,
Ask them,
yes.
and then, but, that's enough. You don't have to be a counsellor. You don't have to be the psychologist. Then connect them on, but sit with them. I often say giving someone the Mates 24/7 helpline and hoping that they're going to call it's not going to cut it. You're actually going to have to sit with them and help them through. Just be a good mate, be a good friend, help them through it, ring that number so you're satisfied that they're getting the support that they need. You've done your bit, and that's all you have to do then, and then hand them on to the mental health professionals from there, or hand them on to a mate's case manager, and they're in good hands then.
A follow-up question then. What are the most common causes of someone having the belief that they want to suicide? So like then you before you mentioned something about divorce or something like that, or a lost one, what are the most common ones, causes?
Financial issues, relationship problems. So it's never one thing. It can be a number of things, right? Or family problems or legal issues. They're the big ones, right? So financial, relationships, family problems. When you've got somebody sick in the family, it impacts the whole family, right?
Yes.
And it throws out everything within that family structure. I lost my mum last year. It's coming up to the anniversary of her death. And, it was a sad time for me, but we sort of knew mum was passing anyway. But it's still sad and still froze you, right? Yes. And to concentrate and all that sort of stuff. And then it comes up a year later, you got the anniversary of her. So I'm probably thinking about her in a few days' time. I'll be thinking about her because it's the anniversary of her death. So it's need to be, like I will call people, like I don't think Maggie would be concerned that I would say this publicly because I've spoken to her before, but Maggie Pearce, a woman, a mother, who her son worked in the industry. Young Ben was 21. He suicided, right? And with Ben, Maggie always said he never gave her anything. He never told her that she didn't pick up that he wasn't travelling well, and it was, he had a couple of problems, but he never really, and some people don't give it off, so you should never hold that against yourself that you didn't pick up that there might have been a problem.
Yeah.
But with Ben's death, every year, and it comes up the anniversary of his death, I ring Maggie. It's a sad phone call to make, but I think I'm probably the only one that does it now, because she always says to me, don't stop ringing, because there's hardly anybody that acknowledges Ben anymore. On the anniversary of his death, I'll give her a call, and because if and I often say to building and construction workers, if you know someone that's lost someone close to them, note that in the calendar in your phone and maybe give them a call on that day, because it does brings up a sad time for people. and that we can actually play a part in this, And whilst you're raising it, at least they feel supported. They feel supported by someone. Most people who suicide don't feel supported. They feel there's no other way out, that they're only in it on their own and there's nobody there to help them. So they'll go on suicide.
No way. Wow. What happened to Ben? Sorry. Like, what was his story?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go right into Ben's story, but just to suggest that he was young, and unfortunately that young demographic, we've got some issues there, obviously, that they can suicide at a much higher rate. So we need to be conscious about that. And it goes back to the whole reason why.
Were young people suicide more than old people?
Yeah. Well, we know that the younger demographic are more at risk of suicide. And there's a bit of research around that. But
why is that? Is that hormonal, or is that, experience? Is that age? What's going on there?
I think the jury's still out on that one, Stephen. Okay. There's a number of things, right? I mean, we live in this technological age. I mean, I didn't have mobile phones when I was a young bloke.
Oh, neither did I.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. I never had mobile phones, and we didn't have the technology and all that sort of stuff. And there's some people that they spend way too much on devices or whatever. Right. But I think also you can go back to my day when I started working life fresh out of school, picking up glasses at a local pub. Right now, pubs, right? They used to be full of blokes drinking, right? Now, there might have been some DV problems that were never addressed back in that day, right? And there might have been a lot of alcohol problems, right? But at least blokes went to a pub and they communed together and they got a lot of crap off their chest, right? And they spoke to each other. And maybe that had something, I don't know, but I'm saying that me observing what's happened over the years, that men not talking about their problems. We know that women are much better at help offering and help seeking. So women are a very important ingredient in the Mates program, actually, in a male-dominated industry. Well, women are better at help offering and help seeking. We know that, right? We shouldn't put the burden of this on our women, though, right?
But we should. What are you talking about? Get more
involved. Well, my mother was a feminist, and I often say that, my line was, we need to encourage more women in the industry, and is there any better reason to include more women in the industry or more inclusive of women than that they can actually save lives? And they can. There's real evidence to suggest that women are really good at help offering and help seeking, and they're an important ingredient in supporting men around suicide. I mean, quite often, Heather, one of our field officers, and I, we often used to laugh about this after we do the general awareness training. They want to line up and come and talk to you about stuff. All the blokes would line up and go and speak to Heather. They wouldn't come to me.
Is that so?
I know, yeah. They
really?
And I didn't take that personally because Heather's this mate. Nobody does empathy better than Heather Drew, one of our field officers. She's absolutely gorgeous. She's wonderful at what she does.
Hold on. Can I
and
just
the blokes
ask, is she like
line
young
up.
or is she like,
she's
mature?
motherly type. She's,
that kind of makes sense.
Heather's got her own, she's got a son and a daughter, and she's actually the daughter of a chippy or a carpenter, and her son was a carpenter as well. So she's got some skin in the game in the construction industry. So they would line up and speak to Heather and completely ignore me, Stephen. But I didn't take that personally. It's each to their own, right? But I think women are an important ingredient. But let's not put the burden on them completely, because women, we've got to be careful about that. But, we're different beings, men and women, and we need to understand that we're different beings, and especially when we're suiciding 75% to 25%, right? And we're a male-dominant industry in construction already, and no wonder we've got high rates of suicide, right? So, there's a lot in that, but I guess demystifying what goes on with suicide is one of the important things. And, but it wasn't that long ago, a few years ago, they used to say anybody that suicide was selfish. Yeah. They've left a family, but now, are they really selfish? We raise this sometimes. This question might come up.
I think the other idea is that they're weak because they want to hide from everything else.
But are they weak, or think of
I don't know. You're the expert.
Well, no, I don't think I am an expert, but I think if you think about what it takes to even contemplate killing yourself, like, my goodness me, anyway, all those things come up. right? But what we know, they're really, really hurting. And what I know is a lot of people have said to me, the physical pain, so there might be a physical pain from hurting yourself in a construction accident, right, where you've broken an arm or whatever, but the emotional pain of suicide or the emotional pain of any emotional pain you're going through is far worse. That's what they tell me. The emotional pain is horrific. And what I do know is families that have someone who is going through mental health within a family, it can be debilitating and it can be very difficult. It can be very frustrating for those families. So we need to do more about this. And I think how the Mates program has spread the word and said suicide's everyone's business. We all have a responsibility here, a collective responsibility, and we shouldn't leave it up to the federal government to solve. We all should be playing a part and being able to. And if we equip them with the tools, they're going to be able to then, we often say we're not just a workplace program. We're a community program, because what we teach people or train people in, they take back to their loved ones, their family, their friends, their community, and they spread the word, right, which is great. So, and that's why I think the Mates program's done so well.
You know what, like while I was listening to you, I'm actually thinking about something, completely, I wouldn't say opposing to what you're saying, but like alongside of what you're saying, like if you're a mother, if you're a partner of a construction worker, go and speak to your husbands and your sons and your cousins or whoever it is, because it seems like maybe even family, like having a woman listen to you might actually be beneficial.
Yeah, but we shouldn't. I think we shouldn't put the burden of that on the women though. But women are an important part. That's true. But I guess it's each to their own who they feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. So that's why the Mates program, when we started it, we said nobody's going to be the gatekeeper here. They actually, I think we talked about that second bit of training. We call it Connect Us. Somebody suggested gatekeeper, and I think it was some union delegates that said at the time, I wouldn't call it gatekeeper because that sort of sounds like I've got hold of the gate and I'm not going to let you in.
Yep.
Right? So it's each to their own, right? It's who you feel comfortable with, and that is the story of the Mates program, that you spread it far and wide, so to ensure that it's not only about how many people that may be that they might be able to connect with, but it's also about who you feel comfortable connecting with.
That's fair. That is fair.
So that's why it works so well, I think. Whereas, you might have one person, we had one person on a job that'd done a mental health first aid certificate, and they said, oh, that's the go-to person. Well, if you didn't feel comfortable, you're not going to tell him, are you?
No.
You're not going to tell that person. So
no, absolutely not. Like I'm thinking about my life. Like I don't think I've ever actually went up to some dude and say, hey, are you suicidal? Never have I ever done that.
Well, you're going to do it now, aren't you?
I'll take your advice, yes, absolutely.
If you are so concerned about a person, and it's the most confronting question, let's not beat around the bush. Let's not, sort of frost it with I don't know, hundreds and thousands here. This is real. You've got to be direct, and it's got to be clear, direct, and you just got to be straight with them and say, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? And they're not going to say, get stuff, Steve, and mind your own business. That rarely happens.
You know what? Maybe I should do that, like literally right after this.
Well, if you've got a concern with someone, yeah, you should. But you shouldn't blurt it out in front of all the workers. You should get them aside somewhere quietly.
Oh, well, I just text. Usually I just text. The majority of the time I
you can text too. I mean, I know that, texting, at first they said it's probably better to do it and it probably would be face-to-face. But, if you can't do that, by all means text them, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Just say, I'm worried about you. I know you've been through all this. I know all that. Now I need to ask the question. It's confronting.
Yep.
Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself?
Oh, maybe I should add
Very
that
important question to ask.
Yeah. No, maybe I should publish this, internally so that everyone can, every one of my staff can see it, and then they can start, adopting these knowledge.
Well, we could always come and do the Mates training.
Yeah, Mates rates, yeah.
Mates rates. You know what? I'm going to let you in on a secret. In the construction industry, it's free.
No way. All right,
It
we're
is.
changing ourselves to a construction company.
Why do you
from
think
now.
in the construction industry it's free?
Why? Tell me.
Because of the subcontract nature of the industry, we wanted to ensure that, the tier ones of the world in the construction industry,
There's only a
I
handful of
I won't
T1s.
mention the names, but they can all pay for it, right? But what about the poor old subbies in the industry that are smaller businesses where sometimes the risk and everything is handed down to them, or the pressure of safety and everything else is handed down to them? What about those poor buggers? If they haven't got the money, we need to make it accessible for people. Now, Mates has also got mates in mining, mates in energy, and mates in manufacturing now, right? That's a different way of doing it. But in construction where we started, we've always made it for free so people could get access to the program.
And that's a very good leadway because let's get into the business of mates in constructions. So how many branches do you guys have now?
So look, we're not entirely national yet, but it's coming, I reckon. So we're in most states. We're in New South Wales. We're in Queensland. We're in WA. We're in South Australia. We're also in New Zealand. We've been in New Zealand for about 7-8 years, I think, and we're now running a pilot in North America.
Out of all places, North America.
Well, I tell you what happened there. So one of our national partners, Quanta Services, they're a large employer in the construction industry in the US. They also have a bit of a footprint in Australia. I think about 3% of the global business is here in Australia.
Yep.
Right. But they may come under other names. There may be other sort of names that are associated with Quanta Services. But Quanta, I think we're having a look at a wellbeing program internationally about what they could do, especially in the US, where there's some different issues in the US to Australia, but certainly suicides are an issue. And they looked at the Mates program and they thought, well, maybe we should run with that. And I remember at the time we said to them, well, it can't be a corporate program. It actually has to be an all-of-industry owned program so everybody feels access to it. They were wonderful. They've been absolutely magnificent, Quanta Services. I think they employ about 77,000 people in the US in the construction industry. They're quite big. Yeah, they're large.
That's massive.
Yeah. So we're running a pilot over there. Whether the name is going to be called Mates in Construction, because Mates may not resonate in the US, but
It'll be
certainly
amigos in construction.
could be.
I'm sorry, that was a good joke, but
Could be.
a bad one.
Look, I've heard a number of things what it could be called, but
Really?
anyway, but currently the program is called the Mates program. That's been run out as a pilot. It's across 8 states. I think it's Nebraska, New York, Washington, Ohio. I mean, there's a number of states anyway that have been running it out. So we'll see what comes of that. We'll evaluate it at the end and we'll see where it comes. But who would have thought?
Yeah,
that we would have been leading the world here.
It's so good that people are essentially, for a better word, ripping your program and then take over to North
I don't know
America.
if you had this sort of the end of, but in 2021, Mates were acknowledged by the World Health Organization as being an example of world's best practice in this space.
Wow, congratulations.
I know, it was huge. We just couldn't believe it. But so we're now part of what they call this Live Life Guide, where for nations all around the world, globally, where they can have a look at the Mates program and say, well, and I guess what sets us aside is because we are a number of things, but I really think the success of the Mates program has been the buy-in from industry, getting access to people, right? But also because we go to the heart of the problem, and that is getting back to that bit of initial research that said that, we had 93% of building construction workers that had suicided in the past and never sought professional help. So they just went to the heart straight away and said, well, how do you build on that? How do you try and stop that from occurring? And I think also because we're genuine, we're real. We don't try and be something else. We are from industry. So even our field officers, they know the industry, they have a flavour for it, they speak like them. So we get buy-in from the workers because they know this is something for our industry, you know.
Mates in Construction, charity?
It's a charity.
Still charity. And how do you guys get your fundings then?
So about 50% of my funding in New South Wales comes from the federal government, and we thank them for. And so there is some political engagement that we have to do, although we're completely independent. You know, we have unions, we have employer associations on our board. We've, you know, the Master Builders Association. You've got the ETU. You've got the Plumbers Union. You know, they're on our board. We have the academics on our boards. But industry also contribute, which is wonderful. And so when they contribute to a charity. Doesn't mean they can influence the program. Certainly our stakeholders within industry, we take their feedback and we try and work with them that way. But we are independent, and that's an important part of who we are, because we want everybody in the industry feeling comfortable coming to us with their most intimate personal issues around mental health or suicide ideation. So we need them all to feel comfortable coming to us, you know. So that's why we are independent. But there's about 50% comes from industry, 50% comes from the federal government. We're always up for fundraising activities in the industry if anybody wants to do a fundraiser or whatever. We have a number of things. We've got Fly the Flag. When we have Are You OK Day, instead of having one day, we have a whole week of events where we celebrate our connectors or our volunteers, assist-trained workers in the industry. We celebrate them.
Right.
And we fly the mates flag, because the flags seem to be synonymous of cranes in the building industry. They all love it. And we get them to pledge that they'll try and look after each other, pledge support for each other. And we celebrate those volunteers during that whole week in September, where we have Fly the Flag, which is our industry bent on Are You OK Day. So it's not just one day, it's 5 days, a whole week, 5-day working week of when we celebrate, and we do stuff like that. So there's a number of ways we get the funding. There's never enough.
Say
We're
someone wants to
under demand at the moment in the industry.
Say someone wants to donate to you guys. Like, how would they do that?
Get in touch with us on mates.org.au and or, you know, they can come through here to you and you can send them to me.
Absolutely.
But mates.org.au and just get on our website, and there's an opportunity there to sort of donate.
And do you guys take volunteers as well? Or?
We take volunteers. We normally it's the volunteers that we train up, you know. We need to get better at doing more with our volunteers. But there's something we're looking at and working on. If you can get involved, and if you're already involved, because there's a number of people probably already involved who've done the Mates program and they love it, but we're always looking for extra support. We can't keep up with industry demand. I reckon about nearly half the inquiries that come through we can't deal with.
Really?
With training. So they want us to train out on site on the anybody that needs help, we help them, right? They get immediate support, right? But for training, the training program, we're about 3 months out in advance with our training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so so there's lots of, you know, really we need more funding our capacity to get to people is a problem, but not if you require immediate support around mental health or suicide. That's dealt with, but certainly getting out on the ground and training people. So we're across all the big civil infrastructure. We're across all those big renewable projects that are going on in Western New South Wales at the moment. We're on the Snowy Hydro, for goodness sake. I'm going down the Snowy Hydro in July, where we have an accreditation where that part of that site down the Snowy Hydro with Witten's Group, they're receiving accreditation, and the accreditation is that they've got at least 80% of their workforce that have done the general awareness training, that they have a ratio of 1 in 20 connectors or better, which they have better, by the way. And then they have at least a couple of assist-trained workers that are present on site, so if anything happens. So we've had a number of accreditations. We had the M7, M12 integration project, which was a big project, roads project here in New South Wales. They were accredited last year. Prior to that, the other project, and I think these are the only two projects in the whole country, was the Sydney Gateway project, which was all those new roads going into Sydney Airport.
I didn't even know about this.
Well, they were all accredited. They all got accredited with Mates accreditation as well, and we made sure we celebrated. The M7, M12, we had Jenny Aitchison, the roads minister, come out, and we all celebrated on site. It was great. We had a barbecue, and because it was a collective. Everybody did it. It wasn't one particular person. We had a few Mates champions. What's interesting about that project, about the M7, M12, there was a number of women in key positions that championed the Mates program. And I think those women really made it happen, and they were amazing. And we've got some good stats around the women that did. And I sent it to the roads minister, Jenny Aitchison, who happens to be a woman, right? And sent it to her, and she thought that was wonderful as well. So,
can I ask, like a rough estimate, how many people has the program touched?
Well, this is a good question, right? So, well over 300,000 connectors. These are the people that have trained up to perform those life-saving interventions. We have nationally over 33,000 connectors.
Wow. And 300,000 is nationally as well, or is that just New South Wales?
No, nationally. Nationally, yeah. So the most important part is those people that can actually perform a life-saving intervention. I mean, do you have to be connected to perform a life-saving intervention?
I don't think so.
Not
no.
particularly.
Yeah.
So general awareness training, at least they've got a fair idea. At least they're open to, instead of running away like I used to. That bloke's a bit weird, you know. I'm not dealing with that. Thank you very much, right?
Oh,
now I don't do that anymore, of course, right? But I used to sit in the lunch area and go, no, thanks. I'm not dealing with that. But I think that we're changing that perception. We're changing the culture. We're building capacity within the sector, right? And I think that's the most amazing, the wonderful thing about the Mates program is that you're not doing anything special, just utilising the people that are there, right? Just equipping them with the information, with the tools to go ahead and do something.
Yeah, no, I love it. I absolutely love it.
You know, I normally finish up on site if I'm talking, right? I normally finish up with a story. And I don't know if you've heard this story.
No.
But it's colloquially known as the angel of the gap. And what I say is this is a very Sydney-centric story, there's a place in Sydney called Watson's Bay. It is a beautiful part of Sydney that overlooks Sydney Harbour.
Yep.
At Watson's Bay, there is a cliff face.
Yes, famous for suicides.
Correct. It's called the Gap.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's an area over the decades people have gone to suicide, And I said, living across the road from a gap was a gentleman by the name of Don Ritchie. Don Ritchie had a background in the Australian Navy, and he was an engineer. He wasn't a mental health professional. He wasn't a psychologist or a psychiatrist. He wasn't even a counselling service. But Don Ritchie would be outraged by what he'd see. He'd see the police rescue turn up. He'd see the ambulance turn up. A couple of days later, he'd see loved ones of family members who had lost someone to suicide placing wreaths of flowers at the cliff face. So Don Ritchie decided to do something about it. If he saw someone standing there on their own, he would walk across the road calmly, non-threateningly, simply engage in a conversation, invite them back to his home for a cup of tea or coffee or even a beer. He would keep them safe while connecting them to help. They estimate that Don Ritchie saved over 200 lives. If Don Ritchie can do it, we all can do it, right?
That's a powerful story.
So I always finish up with that and say, we all have a responsibility. We can do this. Who reckons they can't do it, And then you say, put up your hand if you think you can. And they all put their hand up. It's great,
Wow.
But prior to them getting that training, they wouldn't know how to ask. Maybe they wouldn't know how to look for the cryptic things in someone. And maybe we still, sometimes we're not going to be able to pick it up, right? But at least we're equipped now to go forward.
Well, at least there's one more person, another agent right there to pick it up if it happens to show at the right time.
Well, you know what? We've got physical claims, right? Physical claims, psychological claims are now 6 times higher than physical claims, right? The return to work, rehab, right? The return to work on the psychological claims is twice as long.
I think it's more than twice as long.
There you go, all right? I was trying to be conservative, right? More than twice as long. You know the stats, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculously long.
Yet we've got all these physical first aiders on site, and yet we've got the suicide first aid, which is the applied suicide intervention skills training. Why don't we have a focus on suicide? We should be, like when I say, the shark attack victims.
Yep.
Well, people are outraged by a couple of shark attacks. Why are we outraged about losing a building and construction worker every second day? Or, the rate of suicides in this country is twice as much as the road toll. We've just gone through a weekend of double demerits, right? Yet the rate of suicides is twice as big. What are we doing about that? Where are we spending the money on it?
What's the suicide rate for Australia?
So we're looking at it's on average around about 9 people a day.
9 people a day.
So if
I'm
you
trying to maths,
you do the maths on that because it fluctuates from year to year, right?
Yeah.
But it's normally around 9 to 10 people a day, right? So
it's around a little over 3,000.
Mate, we lose one person in a week to shark attack. We're all outraged. Why aren't we outraged about the suicides, right? So we lose 9 people a day to suicide. Do you know the cost of suicidal behaviour to the Australian economy?
No, tell me.
Oh, it's astronomical. It's into the billions and billions of dollars.
How? Why? Like if I were to assume if someone, suicides and kills themselves, the cost is only a funeral, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Tell
it's
me.
all those added services that you have, dealing with. I'm not going to step you through it, but just to say, and then if they're a breadwinner in the family, right, what happens then? Do they need to get support from, some support services from Centrelink or government or whatever?
Right.
So when they factor in all those, it's unbelievable. It does change. I think I'm not even going to try and guess, but it's in the billions and billions of dollars, right? And yet we're spending nowhere near that around suicide prevention, right? And which frustrates me. It frustrates, I guess, everybody that we can do a lot more. And if you've got the runs on the board, if we're evidence-based like we are, so you have the research to suggest that we may be on the right track, we can do so much more with a bit more money. But we need the Australian community to come with us. And I think that's what we're trying to do in the construction industry. A lot of people in construction now are saying, Mates plays an incredible role, You can have your life coaches. You have plenty of people out there that might, give you a bit of advice. But is it backed up by real evidence? Is it backed up where you're evaluating the Mates program all the time? Is it backed up by the support mechanisms that we have that seem to do so well, especially in regional New South Wales or regional areas? So I think the Mates program is amazing. But you know what? The World Health Organization issue, the pilot in the US, the success of the Mates program is not me, it's not even my staff. This was a collective effort of, I often say, blue-collar industry like building and construction workers trying to solve a difficult issue, and we're all working together, and we're now on a trajectory now where the rest of the world globally is looking to what we're doing. And it's an amazing thing that we've been able to do in this country.
So looking, say 5 years into the future, what's your plans with the charity?
Well, mate, I'm 65, Stephen.
Still got plenty of time. What are you talking about?
So I'm getting, I'm starting to think about what does retirement look like and all that sort of stuff. I think personally for me, I'd like to see the Mates program grow exponentially, especially in New South Wales because we seem to be the poor cousin, right? But and it's already doubled in size really since when I started. But we need to really get it to a level that we can start at a level where we get everybody access. You know, that sort of half the people that we have to knock back in New South Wales because we just can't do the training. Not good enough. We need to get better at that.
What do you mean knocking back? Like, can't you just schedule them a little later?
No, we schedule. One thing is that when we've got to ensure that the trainers that we have, that their own self-care has been looked after as well. They already work pretty hard and they already deal with some really difficult issues, right? So we just haven't got the people to get to everyone, right? We do, however, with the case management and with the 24/7 helpline, that's a crucial part.
Yep.
We're able to contain that at the moment, which is good, right? But let me tell you, the more training we do, the more cases we get. That's the other thing, right? So we've got to be careful about how we build and make sure that we're not giving people in the industry this idea that we can deal with everyone straight away or every problem, right?
Right.
We are handling it at the moment, but there's a lot of people missing out on the training, right? And they want to train their workforce up to get to that level, to get to a level where they are spreading the word, and we are getting them there. Sure, there's other trainings that might be available or whatever, but it's not the Mates program. And we have a program. We believe we hit on something that's quite special, which the rest of the world obviously think we have as well. So
what's the magic number that you want to get to? So like right now you're saying 300,000 is the number of people that you touch. What do you want that number to be in like 5 years from now?
Oh, I think, well, that's, 300,000 we're talking about since inception. But look, I'd like to be able to spread the tentacles far and wide and be able to train everybody up in the construction industry.
Everybody. That's kind of a huge task.
Well, you got to aim high. What's the point of you got to have realistic goals as well. But realistically, I think just being able to sort of, get to those people we haven't got to currently.
Yep.
Because as you grow, demand grows even further, right?
Yeah.
So, but, I think if we're able to create a program that people feel that they all own, it's not mine, it's not the employers, it's not the unions, it's a collective for all of industry to own, and they feel as though that they're all in this together, because they are, I think we've already won. And but I'd like to be able to grow. I want to double the size we are in New South Wales currently. I think if we double the size we are, we're then starting to reach and get there. Because I always say that the Mates program is not just about preventing suicides. It's not just about mental health support. I think the Mates program creates a safer work site, because if your mind's not on the job, you're not only a risk to yourself but everybody else working around you. I think also that it's probably more productive, that because everybody feels better about each other and they're all looking out for each other and create conversations, we're more productive, right? I think that the well-being of everybody is so much better, and I think morale increases. I think there's so much more to what we do, and I've asked our National Academic Reference Group. We have a National Academic Reference Group I call them the Nerd Squad, Stephen, because they're all nerds. They're all professors and doctors, and I stir them up all the time. But they're lovely people, and they're headed up by Professor Tony Lamontagna from Deakin University in Melbourne, and they all come collectively, and I say to them, maybe we should look at, does Mates program increase productivity? Does it increase morale? They just look at me blankly and say, well, how do you measure that? But I think it's coming. I think at some point we will have a look at that. They do wonderful stuff already. They're just incredible people.
You know what?
They're all volunteers, by the way.
Is it?
They don't get paid for this. They're all volunteers. All our directors on our boards and everything, they're all volunteers. Our chairperson, Justin Page, who was a former secretary of the Electrical Trades Union, right, doesn't get paid a cent for doing what he does. They're all wonderful people.
Wow. And it sounds
And
like
here am I calling the National Academic Reference Group all nerds, mate. It's terrible, isn't it?
no, it's not.
Well, I did a study on them once. I'll let you in on this one. We did, when we were down in Melbourne one time, we all went out to dinner the night before we all met. And the next morning I said to them, you know what I did? I researched the researchers yesterday. I researched us all.
Yep.
And they said, oh, did you really? What did you find? And I said, well, I had you all down as nerds. But what I actually found that you're all what do I call them? Party animals. I said, you're all party animals. But they all do it for nothing, right? So it's amazing. It's an amazing charity. People are heavily invested emotionally in this.
Yeah.
And it just works.
And it sounds like they're doing it for passion, not for money, not for anything else. Not fame, nothing
You've
like
got to
that.
have passion in this game.
Wow.
Otherwise it's not going to work, right? Even all my staff are all passionate about what they do. And that obviously comes out about when they're doing the training. So we're passionate. We believe we have a vocation. We're on a mission, try and get suicides down, reduce suicides in our industry. And I think we're succeeding slowly, but we're getting there.
Look, I think, final few questions. One is, you mentioned that there's mates in mining and mates in, all these other places. Are you going to start one that says, mates in rehab or mates in office?
Well, let me tell you, mates, the Mates family, Mates Australia, we really need to be careful biting off too much than we can chew, and there's not an appetite at the moment to move into other industries with the National Board of Directors, simply because we need to consolidate what we've got, right? But do I see a mates type program or mates moving into other areas? Absolutely. Is it needed? Absolutely, it's needed, and if we had a bit more funding, I've got to say the Federal Health Minister, Mark Butler, is one of our biggest champions of mates, right? He's been magnificent, right? On the other side of politics, you've got the likes of Julian Lisa. Julian Lisa tells this powerful story. Just recently, I was at the Suicide Prevention Australia conference held in Sydney. Julian Lisa tells this very powerful story how at the age of 20 he lost his father to suicide, right? Impacted on him hugely, right? Julian Lisa has done all the mates training, sings our praises. He actually said that the future for suicide prevention really lies in peer-led workplace programs like the Mates in Construction program, right? So when you got that going on. When the other day we had Zali Stegel, who's the teal independent out at the Cedar Warringah. She came on site, a job site opposite Manly Beach. Early hours of the morning, we're freezing. We all had our big jackets on. She sat there and sat through the whole general awareness training and then spoke to all the participants, right? So when you've got political will coming in from all sides of politics, because we have to deal with everyone, I think it's starting to happen. I think this is really interesting about where the Mates program goes now. But watch this space, Stephen. I think we're starting. We're on the precipice of something special happening.
Are you saying this is like the Big Bang moment? Where did it blow?
I think so. I think so. I hope so. I think, we're renowned internationally now.
Yep.
People are all looking to our program and saying, well, that seems to be the one we want to be like. And like I say, it wasn't me, it wasn't my staff. It was just, the industry coming together and working to solve this difficult problem.
One question I have, how big are your sessions or your seminars? How big are they? How many participants,
Mate, we can do anywhere from 10 to 500 in one sitting.
Is there
for
preference
general awareness training?
On which
That's
ones
general
you take?
awareness training.
Uh-huh.
It's limited with connector training because there's a safe limit.
Yep.
So you can't have any more than 30. You can't have any less than 10 for connector. It's not ideal to do 500 at general awareness training, by the way. It's very difficult.
Oh, okay.
Very difficult because, you want to make sure that you've got that, that you've got everybody covered. If somebody leave, how do you spot them, all that sort of stuff. So it can be anywhere from, ideally anywhere from 10 to 100, I reckon, or 10 to 150 maybe, if you're pushing it for general awareness training. anywhere from 10 to 30 for the
connector one.
The connector.
Yep.
And then about the same 30 to 40 maybe because we split them into two groups for the assist. Yeah.
Ah, okay. And there's no preference on, what size you prefer more, like the 10s or the 100s?
Oh, no, not really. Not really. I mean, like I said, if you get over 150, it's starting to, you lose something there,
Yep.
But I'm just saying that we try and cater to everyone on site. And, you got to understand, they're taking time out on a very busy schedule, costing a lot of money, right? They're taking time out to do this program, right? So they've got a bit to lose, right? But they also understand that this is such an important issue, right?
Yeah.
So if you can put everybody, get them collectively together, most of them on the site, you might do it you have one sitting and then you might have another sitting because it's not just one general awareness training. You might have a few on the site, right?
Oh, okay.
Might have a few. That's
right.
how we schedule it with them. So we work with them to schedule it in. So we're not doing it during a concrete pour. That'd be stupid, right? So we schedule with them about how we can do that.
Oh, that's cool. And I guess, final question on that part is there a preference on what type of companies you guys prefer to serve first?
Not really, No, I mean, we've done, a couple of tradies who've got a ute with a couple of blue cattle dogs hanging out the back of the ute, you know what I mean? We have done that. I mean, but with the residential sector, like we've got a partnership at the moment with Mojo Homes, McDonald Jones Homes, right? They will bring together their people at one location, right? Because there might be smaller locations, smaller groups of people, whatever. That's a bit more difficult. But we do in the residential sector also do the training. Or I think we had Clarendon and Domain Homes the other week. We did some stuff with them. So it's about scheduling.
Yep.
It's about getting it right. So we don't dictate to them. We say, look, we're available this date. Are we able, if we give them plenty of notice, are we able to work around that? And we work with them to try and schedule it in.
Okay. All right. To wrap this up, can you recall a story that you've heard or you've seen of where someone actually helped another person get away from suicide?
Oh yeah, there's plenty.
Give me a few.
Plenty. Well, I think one of the best ones that we use is that we had a number of blokes after work. There was about 3 of them, and they were concerned about one of their mates. But they used to meet every Friday afternoon at the pub. So the whole 3 of them were there. One in particular, the other 2 were worried about. Right. Mm-hmm. So they're having a drink, and he was a little bit distant, not himself, and all that, and they were a bit concerned. And then anyway, he said, he goes, hope you have a good weekend. And they said, well, we'll see you on Monday. He said, yeah, maybe. And he left half his beer on the table. And no, that was unusual because they said he normally drinks his beer. So they chased him out of the pub. And they went, mate, stop. You said maybe. 1, see you on Monday, right? 2, you drank half your beer. What's going on with you? And they intervened, right? And essentially he was suicidal and they helped him get support. And that is amazing. That's priceless, right?
Wow.
And they picked it up after doing our training. It wasn't quite right. It wasn't sitting right with them, and they'd been concerned a while for him, and they were a bit standoffish about whether they should ask the question or whatever. But that for them, that was the cruncher, right? That, sorry, you said maybe, you then left half your beer there. That's not you. We're going to do something about it. So that's just one of many. There's many stories about, even like giving off the signs, cryptic and hidden, like the apprentice who was running around, paying back, squaring the ledger, paying back people for their coffees or whatever before he attempted suicide. They didn't know that meant that. they said, oh, maybe we should have seen that coming. We didn't know. Or it might have been, the project manager who was giving away his golf clubs. He said, here, you can have my golf clubs, I won't be needing these. Did anybody think to ask why he won't be needing them before he attempted suicide?
Shit. Wow.
So it can be cryptic and hidden. So I'm not saying to people that we have all the answers. Do we always know that someone's suicide? No, we don't. But we can pick up the signs, and then we might be able to intervene and ask the question. Nice. Clearly and directly, remember?
Yes, no, absolutely that. You know what I realized though? Like after speaking to you for almost 1 hour, right? I realized a little bit of, what you guys are doing is essentially replacing the family units. What I mean by that is, like in the modern day, we live in individual silos across the society. And we don't have a very strong family bond anymore. Like we're not tribes anymore. And unfortunately, a lot of these stuff does get overlooked a lot. And what you guys are doing essentially is just
bring it back. So
community.
We used to always talk at the table.
Yeah.
Now I got to tell you honestly, my wife, I'm married to a very tough Croatian woman, Stephen, who we lovingly refer to as a general. I've got 4 sons and 2 dogs, and they're all scared of the general, right? And she refers to the 4 sons as the weapons of mass consumption because they're always eating her cooking. She's a good cook, right? They're always eating. But I got 3 of them at home at the moment. I was down to 1 pre-COVID, and then 2 extra came back. But what I've noticed, we don't sit at the family dinner table and have dinner together anymore. Yeah. We're all so busy that one might be having Uber Eats in his bedroom, or somebody else might be having. And so we don't have that. And unfortunately, that's where we've moved.
And even if you're sitting at a dinner table, you might be on the phone, chatting with someone else, or chatting a chick up, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, quite often we try to. And I remember when I first come into this role, my very tough Croatian wife, the general, said, the weapons when they come in after work, right? She said, I'm lucky to get a grunt out of them, And when I showed her the difference between male suicides compared to female, 75%, 25% male suicides to female suicides, she said, that's easy, you blokes don't talk, right? She has the weapons. She says, I'm lucky to get a grunt out of them when they walk through the door. And then she went on to say, women are just far too busy to contemplate suicide. Oh, not completely true, that last bit, right? But she is right. She was right that we've lost that communication skill, or we don't do it as often as we used to do in the old sort of family sort of structure, which maybe we should get back to. But what we are trying to do is replace that on site, at least within the workplace, and say we actually need to talk to each other. Yeah. And we actually need to intervene. We actually need to be a little bit nosy if we're worried about the way that they are. If we sense that they're not doing so well, we have that gut feeling that maybe we need to be a little bit nosy. We need to ask these questions, ask them clearly and directly, then get them the support that they need.
Yeah. No. God, you guys doing amazing work. I think you guys are doing God's work, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah. With that,
I wake up every morning and I'm very happy for what I do, Stephen.
That's perfect. That's the best place you want to be. Yeah. Anyways, with that, thank you, Brad.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the chat. It was insightful, and good luck to her. For everything that you guys are doing. Hopefully, you can expand. Hopefully, you can have more capacity to teach more people. Mates in health, I would love to see that happen, because I do see that happening a lot. Like especially like the doctors, say the neurosurgeons, all they see is death.
Yeah.
Imagine what they're going through.
Yeah. There's lots of professions. Mates in cops.
Cops, yeah. No, don't get me started. Because we see that a lot here. And what I mean by that is the PTSD that we see them suffer through.
But even the Defence Force, we had, I had a field officer and case manager that worked for us, Kieran, and he did free tours of Afghanistan, and his story is a powerful story, right? And then he got into the mental health space, cutting this story very short. But he'd gone through, PTSD and seen a lot of things and all that sort of stuff. And he always said that we need this program in the Defence Forces, right? Because when they exit the system, there's nothing really there, right? And I think there's been lots of inquiries. There's been lots of stuff around that at the moment, and they're trying to put those measures in place. But he always used to say in those early days, he worked when I first started back at Mates, when I worked with Kieran, and we're still in touch actually every now and then. He's gone on to bigger and better things, like a number of my staff have, which is great. He said we really need this in our Defence Force as well. So there's lots of areas that you can think of where it's needed. I had a car accident back in 2018 where a young bloke came for a red light and hit me. And I was unconscious, temporarily unconscious, was hospitalised at Bankstown Hospital actually. So it took me, and I had burns from the airbag on my arm. I had all my face burn on one side as well. But, I never saw it coming, right? So after 5 days, I got back to work because I wanted to get back on the horse, as they say, get back on the bike or get back on the horse. So I got back into my office. Waiting for me was Kieran Toohey. Kieran, the bloke that had spent, 3 tours in Afghanistan, been through the PTSD, shocking stuff. And he said to me, he goes, "How are you going?" He's waiting for my office, right? What's he waiting for me for, He said, "I just want to check in on you. How are you going?" I said, "Yeah, good." And he goes, "Are you really good?" Or he said, "Are you, feeling the impact, shudders in your body, and it feels real, for every bone in your body, and it feels real. You're having those shudders." And I was. I went, "Yeah, what about it?" And he said, "And are you going back to the scene of the accident, maybe not every day, but every second day to find out what happened, right?" I said, "You following me, you mongrel?" He said, "No." He said, "You've got PTSD." He said, it just naturally enters the head, and sometimes you try and fight it, but that's okay, but it may manifest into something else. And I want you to be aware that it can manifest into something else, and maybe I can give you some strategies to deal with it. Now, I was feeling it, like you could feel it all of a sudden, you get bang, you're reliving the impact of the car, right? Like when I was in the car. And it was strange, this strange feeling that just come over you all of a sudden, And what I didn't realise, I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know it was PTSD. I did not know. But thank God for him, because he said to me, "Well, this is what this is what it is, but it's a natural thing that occurs. However, would you like some strategies to deal with it?" Yeah, I'd love some strategy. Thank you, But amazing foresight in someone like that, because he'd obviously been through it. He'd dealt with it, So the mind does really weird things, right? And when you get down to suicide as well, the minds it's a bit of a mystery, but we are trying to demystify what is suicide, right?
Yep.
And trying to put it out there that we all have a role to play.
With that, if you got a similar story like, what we shared today, comment below and tell us your story. And then if you liked it, please give us a like. And if you want to hear Brad's work, go to
mates.org.au.
Perfect. And if you want to donate, go to that website as well. And thank you for tuning in. Take care, and see you next time.